If you stayed in on Valentine's Day to watch SmackDown last night, well, I'm sorry. The show sucked. Which really should come as no surprise at this point, just because, and I hate to sound like a broken record, the show has been so dull for so long. I honestly don't know what it's going to take to get it back on track. It's literally become the new Raw. And Raw has actually surprisingly been very, very good for quite some time now. For the last couple of months, I've very much enjoyed the program. Probably since they switched the brands up in the draft back in October. Raw undoubtedly got the better of that draft. There is really no debate about that in retrospect. Yeah, SmackDown has The Fiend. They have a few other intriguing characters. Corbin and Reigns, though, has just been a fucking snooze fest since it started. Braun, Nakamura, neither of them really interest me right now, to be honest with you. Miz and Morrison are doing their thing. Bayley's been boring. Sasha Banks has been out of the picture. Naomi's back, which is great. Sheamus is back. The Usos are back. John Morrison's on the show. It's like putting a frickin', Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. The show needs help. And yeah, those returns really, sparked some interest in the first few weeks of the year, as I've said many, many times. But it went back to being a poor show after a while because the push of Sheamus has been, it's cool to see Sheamus back on the show, but they're doing nothing interesting with the guy. He's going out there and squashing the same people, Shorty G and Apollo Crews, like he did on this show. The Roman Reigns King Corbin shit will never fucking end. Miz and Morrison were done no favors on this show. Bayley is still boring. The Braun, Elias, Sami, Cesaro, Nakamura feud is, for some reason, still going on, even though Braun and Elias have definitively defeated every member of that stable at one point or another. Why are they still feuding? The only thing on this show that has really piqued my interest consistently, aside from the, Miz and Morrison stuff, which took a step backward on the show with what they did with them in the main event, has been the Otis and Mandy Rose storyline that took center stage on this show, as it should have. It was the Valentine's Day episode. How could it not? And this entire episode built around the Mandy Rose Otis date. Then I'll get to what they did with that and the backlash. And I haven't really seen too much negative reception about the angle, like, oh, they wasted everyone's time because of what happened in the end. I don't think so. I like what they did with it. It made me feel a certain way that I was probably supposed to feel, feeling bad for Otis in the end. So we'll talk about that soon enough. But overall, the show is no good. For a show that they had advertised, Roman teaming with a mystery partner against Miz and Morrison, who the hell could possibly care? The Otis and Mandy date, like I said, I was really, excited to see what they would do with that. They advertised Hulk Hogan for this show, but they pulled a Goldberg a lot like they did last week, and he wasn't even on the show. He, granted, not like, unlike Goldberg, they didn't advertise this days in advance. I read about this maybe at 4 o'clock on Friday on Twitter, if not shortly beforehand, saying that Hogan would be on the show to talk about the NWO going into the Hall of Fame, which you would never know because of all the NWO merchandise in the background. I mean, I'm joking, of course, but it was clearly filmed at his shop or something in Tampa or Orlando, and he was not on the actual show. So they got to do a better job of saying, like, will they be there in person, or will they be on the show just to talk from their fucking house or shop or something? Because they made that mistake with Goldberg last week, and he will be on the show live next week. But what does that mean? He was live last week, too, just not in the arena. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got to do a better job of advertising that, because to me, it feels like false advertising. If I went to SmackDown last week or this week and I was thinking, oh, we're getting Goldberg, we're getting Hulk Hogan, I would get my hopes up, only to find out, oh, they're only, Skyping in via satellite or whatever. No thanks. Like, that's pretty shitty. But anyway, overall, the show really was no good. Thankfully, I did not waste my entire night watching it. Alexis and I came back from going to see, and this is going to sound dumb, like I'm talking about waste of time, Sonic the Hedgehog. And quite honestly, that was not a bad movie. I honestly was more entertained. I enjoyed the Sonic the Hedgehog movie more than I did SmackDown. Like by a wide margin. It really was not that bad of a movie at all. A lot of things that didn't make sense, and they were like kids screaming in the back of the theater. But other than that, I thought overall it was a really well done movie, and I'm glad they made the appropriate changes to the animation and whatnot. Maybe I'll elaborate that on another time. But still, we came back late from that. We grabbed ice cream on the way home. Came back around 9, and we caught up on DVR. So we skipped over through all the fucking replays and the commercials and all the bullshit. And we were done with the show in maybe less than 90 minutes, which is how it should be, really. I really haven't watched SmackDown Live many times in the last couple of weeks. I did last week, not the week before that. And sometimes I feel like I enjoy the show more. I enjoy the show more not watching, live, because I can skip through all the bullshit. And there's a lot of bullshit on SmackDown between the replays. I mean, commercials are one thing, but it feels like they have constant replays, which you would expect on Raw, but they haven't really done a hell of a whole lot of that recently on Raw. But anyway, we kicked off the show with an episode or an installment of Moment of Bliss, which they had said, the first one of 2020, which I guess it is. I thought they did one with Lacey Evans earlier on in the year. Maybe that was in 2019. I could have sworn that was right before the Royal Rumble, but maybe I'm imagining things here. Not that it really matters anyway, but they invited out Carmella to discuss her past friendship with Bayley, which I liked. I thought this segment was solid. It did an effective job of setting the stage for the SmackDown Women's Championship clash between Bayley and Carmella, establishing their prior history, their friendship, making the match mean more, because the match was only, made a week ago. They advertised it for SmackDown a few days ago. I thought they would save this for Super ShowDown or Elimination Chamber, but no, they wanted to fast-track the match because they're clearly building to some sort of a three-way, or maybe even Naomi and Bayley as of Super ShowDown in a couple weeks. I don't know. It could very well end up being a triple threat, which I'll get to in a second, but the Moment of Bliss was fine. I thought it did a good job of reminding people of the history between Bayley and Carmella, which, their on-air history wasn't as extensive as Sasha and Bayley's. They weren't best friends on TV for any extended period of time. A lot of it was behind the scenes, and they did bring it up once or twice when I think they had a match for the NXT Championship back in 2016, maybe 2017. I think it was 2016 at the onset of the year, and that might have been the only time they ever really brought up their history as friends. So I'm glad they reminded people of that here. The match was actually pretty good. They kicked off the show. They went immediately from the Moment of Bliss to the match, and I thought they worked well together. It was a good match, and Bayley's matches and feuds and whatnot have really not been lighting the world on fire for the better part of her reign for the past 5 or 6 months. Even dating back to her first reign with the Alexa Bliss Nikki Cross matches. Those were a fucking bore. The matches with Charlotte felt very underwhelming. The Lacey Evans match at the Royal Rumble was kind of a bust. That didn't really excite me at all. It was easily the worst match on the entire show. And then there was this match, which I honestly thought might have been one of the better Bayley matches I've seen in some time. And it's not Bayley's fault. I mean, part of it is her fault, but I don't know. The heel thing just is not working out as well as I thought it would. She has really just been plain and dull and generic in this heel role, which it really should have refreshed her character, but it might have had the opposite effect. And I don't know what you do with her. Because as a babyface, it's not like, she was super popular as a babyface and whatever. She really wasn't. People were booing her anyway. So I don't really know what you do with Bayley, to be honest with you. But I thought this was good. Bayley cheated to win. She got her feet on the ropes. So clearly they're protecting Carmella in defeat. And in the case that they do a triple threat with her, Bayley, and Naomi at the Super ShowDown pay-per-view. So Naomi came out afterward after Bayley attacked Carmella post-match. And, Carmella and Naomi took turns beating up on Bayley. So next week, it's going to be Carmella and Naomi in the number one contenders match. What I would like to see to extend the feud is a triple threat, because Carmella got screwed, and no, not literally. Sorry, Corey. They're probably setting up a triple threat. I would like to see a triple threat, just because it extends the feud, and I would not do Bayley and Naomi so soon. To be honest with you, yeah, Bayley and Sasha on paper is a WrestleMania-worthy match. Are you going to build it up in a month and a half, though? That's the problem. Sasha's been persona non grata on this show for weeks. I don't know when she'll be cleared, if she even is cleared. I honestly have no idea. We've heard no updates from Sasha Banks at all. So I'm not even really sure if that would make sense as a WrestleMania match, to be honest with you. Even though I've wanted to see it at WrestleMania for years and years and years now, this year, I don't know if it's going to make sense. So Bayley Naomi seems like the logical route to take. Naomi's over right now. She just came back. She's got a great look. I'm loving what they're doing with Naomi right now. So I wouldn't waste that match in Saudi Arabia. It's cool they're having a match in Saudi Arabia that makes sense with the women at the pay-per-view at Super ShowDown, but I would rather see them save Bayley and Naomi. Not that the match would light the world on fire. It's a WrestleMania-worthy match in the ring, but it's not like AJ and Nakamura, hold off on it until WrestleMania. It's not that big of a deal, but from a booking standpoint, to extend the feud, if they are going in the Bayley-Naomi route, I would rather they do that match for the first time at WrestleMania as opposed to Bayley and Naomi, the rematch from Super ShowDown or Elimination Chamber. You know what I mean? But this was probably the best thing on the entire show. Everything else after this was all downhill from here. And even this wasn't all that amazing. Sheamus squashing Shorty G, Chad Gable, whatever the fuck, and Apollo Crews in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Who the hell is supposed to be the good guy here? I feel like Sheamus is the one getting the cheers, because he's the one being built up at the moment. The crowd was behind Sheamus, not Crews and Shorty G. They cheered Sheamus. Sheamus did nothing to turn the crowd against them. We've barely heard from the guy since he came back, aside from the dumb backstage vignettes. I don't know if he's cut a single in-ring promo since he's been back. He's been squashing dudes left and right, and that's great, but we got to hear from him at some point in the ring. And, again, they're building him back up to be dominant, which is probably what they're going for, assuming that a match with Braun Strowman for the Intercontinental Championship is where they're going with this. But, with Crews and Shorty G, just hang it up, boys. Just hang it up. Either go back and enjoy the catering or just quit, because they're not going to do anything with either of you. So just leave. I don't know what their contract status is. Chad Gable should absolutely leave. Crews, I don't know what's going through his head, but, prior to last week, he had not been on TV for months. He has not gotten a significant push by this company in years. He really has never been given a fair shake on the main roster, to be honest with you. In the last 4 years, he's been criminally wasted. So just let him go and let him go elsewhere, or bring him back to NXT full-time. At least there he would be appreciated. But this was a nice way of building Sheamus back up. It did nothing for Shorty G and Apollo Crews. Sheamus having to overcome the odds as a heel makes absolutely no sense. I thought this was oddly booked. They do this stuff a lot. They did this a couple years ago with Dolph Ziggler. Right after he went heel, they had him face, I think, Kalisto and Apollo Crews, actually. No stranger to handicap matches when he's a babyface. And I think Ziggler may have... I honestly don't remember. That feud was so forgettable. I don't remember who won. It might have been the babyfaces. I don't know. I don't remember now that I think about it. But it just made no sense, because why would you want to have the heel? Unless they're like two job guys. Like, that's a different story. Like, if it's Roman, that's a babyface. But, I guess these guys are two job guys. But I'm thinking, like, enhancement talent. Like, I can kind of see that, the heel having to overcome the odds there. But these are two competent athletes getting squashed in the matter of minutes. So I thought that was a little silly. We heard from Hulk Hogan, who, again, as predicted, talked about the NWO induction into the Hall of Fame over WrestleMania 36 weekend. He talked about Goldberg versus Bray Wyatt at Super ShowDown. Now, he knows nothing about Bray Wyatt. I don't think we've ever seen one single interaction between Hulk Hogan and Bray Wyatt here on the show. But he said he's been around the WWE Universe for a little bit, brother, and that he knows all about Bray Wyatt. Okay, Hulk. Okay. He knows all about Goldberg. We do know that. It was Goldberg who beat Hogan and won his first WCW World Heavyweight Championship in that classic moment on Nitro over 20 years ago. So he does know Goldberg, not so much Wyatt. Before he could go any further, we were interrupted by an episode of the Firefly Funhouse that was done in NWO fashion. Now, this was awesome. Now, I don't know if they had the same guy who did the following announcement is paid for by the New World Order. I don't know if it was the same guy who did it back in the day. It sounded a lot like him. It probably wasn't the same guy. I feel like more people would have picked up on that if it was. But I thought this was great. So, instead of like the typical Firefly Funhouse open, it was the NWO intro from the old vignettes back in the day. And then Bray Wyatt walks on screen with his championship belt like a guitar, like Hulk Hogan with the WCW belt back in the 90s, and jamming out to the NWO theme song. I thought that was awesome. I really liked this segment. I thought it was good. Hulk, kind of came across as forced and whatever. He's obviously reading off a script, but he didn't mess up his lines as much as he usually does. I know the bar is low for Hulk Hogan promos in 2020, but usually anytime they brought him in to spew some shit in the last 5 or 6 years, he's always messed up his lines. Most notably at WrestleMania 30, when he called the Superdome the Silver Dome. I think that's what the mix-up was. If not the other way around, I'm pretty sure it was the Superdome he called the Silver Dome, a la WrestleMania 3, thinking he was slamming Andre in the main event that night. And that was a great flaw because they turned it into something great. But, any other time he's messed up, it's just embarrassing. He didn't do that here. I thought this was all right. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think I said this last week, but I'm cautiously optimistic for Bray Wyatt and Goldberg at the Super ShowDown pay-per-view. I doubt it's going to be a great match, but I'm interested to see what they do with it. My prediction is still that Bray Wyatt wins, but there is absolutely the chance. If you think there is no chance of Goldberg winning, then you are a fool, and you have not been watching WWE long enough, because, first of all, the company can do whatever the fuck they want. It's a scripted show, of course. Second of all, if you're thinking to yourself, they wouldn't do that, would they? They absolutely would. 100%. They've done dumber things, so I would not put it past them to put the belt on Goldberg at Super ShowDown. You know, they did the same thing with Kevin Owens when Goldberg won the Universal Championship 3 years ago. He was champion for many months. Goldberg beat him like a month out from WrestleMania, and Owens had to settle for the United States Championship match on that show instead. And it worked out well because he had the feud with Jericho. You know, he wasn't like in a fucking multi-man ladder match or something. It made sense. But still, I mean, I think Owens and Jericho probably should have been the Universal Championship match that year, considering how long they've been building up the feud for. But whatever, it's not that big of a deal. So I thought this was good, though. The segment between Hogan and Wyatt. We'll see what they do with Wyatt and Goldberg at Super ShowDown if the match is any good. Goldberg will be on the show next week in person. They clarified that this time, thankfully. But again, I would not shut out the possibility of Goldberg winning that championship just yet. I hate to say it like a negative Nancy or whatever. I hate to sound like that, but I would not put it past this company because I think the idea of a Goldberg-Roman match at WrestleMania to WWE, to Vince specifically, might be more appealing than Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns. And again, not even that match lights the world on fire for me, but to take the title off of Bray at this point would be a fucking waste of everything they have done to build this guy up in the last 6 to 8 months, if not the last year. They got to keep the championship on him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we had a performance from Sami Zayn and Cesaro, which, I mean, this whole segment was stupid. The whole feud is just a complete waste of time. This really felt like a waste of time, to be honest with you. I thought Elias was entertaining to an extent. The crowd was super behind him. This show took place, I think, in Vancouver, by the way. That's where it emanated from in Canada, obviously. British Columbia, Canada, Vancouver, Canada. And these crowds are always great. So it was cool. The crowd was great this entire show. The show wasn't great, but the crowd was good. They were behind Elias. They were singing, "Oh, walk with Elias." I think Keith Lee has it down now at the whole Bask in My Glory. I like that a little more. Sorry, Elias. Cesaro was the highlight of this entire segment. I honestly could not give two shits about what Sami Zayn was doing or Braun coming out or even what Elias was doing. Cesaro with the cowbell, and then when he wasn't doing it correct, I'm not even sure how you correctly use a cowbell. I mean, I may sound like an idiot, but I'm not exactly sure how you do it because he was hitting it and nothing was really happening. He probably wasn't doing it properly. Not that he may have. He definitely wasn't doing it properly. And then when the crowd was chanting for the cowbell, because this crowd was great, before he was about to do it, he just threw it down to the ground. I thought that was awesome. Cesaro is fucking awesome. And then he was dancing while Sami was, playing his ukulele or whatever the hell it was. I thought Cesaro was the MVP of this segment. But that was about it, though. I mean, again, I like Elias and he's getting over, but what does it even really mean? Like, Cesaro went over him at this point means absolutely nothing. Sami Zayn even less so. And then there's Strowman. I mean, Nakamura was not on the show. So Nakamura got some revenge against Strowman last week by knocking him out or whatever, hitting the Kinshasa on him. He was nowhere to be seen this week. So Strowman got revenge on Cesaro and Sami, but not Nakamura. So the whole thing is a waste. I really do not care about the feud. Strowman has got the better of all these guys literally every single week. Every single week for the most part. Maybe aside from last week, but other than that, he has gotten the better of these guys every single fucking week. So why should I care? Why should I care about him? Why should I care about the championship? Why should I care about Shinsuke Nakamura? Why should I care about anything about this feud? So we got to the real highlight of the show. I mean, I like Cesaro. He was funny, and the women's championship match was good. The reason why we all tuned into the show, though, was because of the Valentine's Day date between Mandy Rose and Otis. So they spent the entire episode building up to this, and really this should have closed out the show. Not gonna lie to you, I was honestly expecting at some point, at one point, are they actually gonna close the show with this? They didn't. It was, it went on right before the main event, which was, I'll get to that in a second. So they were building up Otis all night long, with him getting ready. He combed his hair, he got, he was all dressed and everything. He was working on, what he should say to Mandy with Tucker. He was getting prepped all night long. We saw Mandy sitting at this restaurant for at least a half an hour, and Otis hadn't even left the arena yet, so I'm not sure where the restaurant was. I don't know why he would have told her to be there at a certain time if she was going to be there a half an hour early. That was a little bizarre. So then, as we see Otis approach Mandy, it comes time for the date. Mandy's already there, looking as fine as ever. Otis looking fine as ever as well. He approaches the table only to find out that Mandy's already sitting down with Dolph Ziggler. So Dolph walks up to the table and Mandy's like, "Oh, it's about time you showed up," because I think Dolph put his hand on her shoulder or something. and it was obvious it was Dolph. And they were teasing something with this a while ago, like maybe about a month and a half ago with Dolph and Otis when he like stepped on Otis's cake, and they didn't really follow up on that after that. I thought they would do an Otis and Dolph Ziggler match, which is apparently where they're headed with this. I would assume anyway at one of the pay-per-views, if not, probably not WrestleMania, but so yeah, that's they did that and they dropped it for whatever reason. They're bringing that back now, and I like Dolph's involvement in this storyline because the guy is a ladies' man. He's got Vicky Guerrero notwithstanding, but like AJ Lee, he's been with a lot of ladies during his time in WWE. Maria at one point over 10 years ago. I feel like he had another valet in the last number of years. He was kind of with Caitlyn, not really. They just kind of had a shared enemy in AJ back in 2013. So maybe not, but anyway. So he shows up, and Mandy's kind of surprised that he's there. And I'm thinking, okay, Mandy's going to tell him off. I mean, that's what a normal person would do, right? Like, she's going to tell him off and be like, listen, I'm waiting for Otis. And so Otis walks up into the restaurant, and he sees Mandy sitting down with Dolph. Dolph is there. She's not acting like, oh, get away from me, like, get away from my table. That's Otis's spot. It looks like they're genuinely having a conversation. So Mandy's in the wrong here. She looks like a total bitch. We all feel heartbroken for Otis. I thought this was amazing. He, predictably slams the roses down on the ground, and then he walks out. He storms out of the restaurant. This was awesome. It feels like we're watching a Hallmark movie here, but who the fuck cares? I think Otis is amazing in this role. You cannot help but root for the guy. And Mandy is great, too. So I'm not sure where they're going with this. I would assume a Dolph and Otis match is the end game. It was Mandy, playing with his emotions this entire time. I guess we'll soon find out. I thought, again, everyone hoping for like the whole date, and they were disappointed when we didn't get it. That's the point. Again, I didn't see many negative reactions to begin with. I didn't see people saying, oh, this was a waste. But that was the first thing that came into my mind. Like, why the fuck would they build this up all night long only to not deliver? It's because they went a different direction instead. If they were hyping this up for weeks and they didn't just completely ignore the thing on the episode again, then that would be an issue, of course. But they were playing it up, and then they broke your heart at the very last second. I think we can all relate to that at one point or another, that something along these lines has happened to us where we thought we had the girl, or in some cases, the guy or whatever, I guess for certain people, if you're a girl or guy listening to this. We thought we had the person, all right? And then right before you know it, we get the friggin' rug swept right underneath us. I cannot tell you how many times that has happened to me in my lifetime. Thankfully, I have Alexis now, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. Thank the fucking Lord. But oh God, I would be a liar if I said it was a stranger to that feeling. I think we've all experienced that at one point or another. Maybe not this exact same situation, but thinking you got the girl, thinking you got the guy or whatever, and then all of a sudden, boom, they swipe the rug, they just sweep it right from out underneath you, and then you're heartbroken. On Valentine's Day, no less. Fucking Mandy, fucking Dolph. Hopefully not fucking, but this was heartbreaking. But we get to the main event. Even more heartbreaking was how they booked the Miz and Morrison here. How's that for a segue? The main event was good. I didn't really mind the match itself. To have the Miz and Morrison lose clean to an impromptu makeshift tag team makes absolutely no sense. I cannot stress enough how fucking dumb this was. To have Miz and Morrison lose here for absolutely no reason. This was so stupid. This fucking team just got back together. They're the number one contenders for the SmackDown Tag Team titles in 2 weeks at Super ShowDown. Why the fuck would you book them to lose? That makes absolutely no sense. Honestly, it would be one thing if the New Day came out and they cost them the victory. Even then, I would still be like, okay, that was dumb. But at least they would have a reason for losing. At least we would say, okay, they got distracted. That's why it furthers the feud between the New Day and Miz and Morrison. The New Day weren't even on this show. Instead, Miz was made to look like a fucking goofball and got pinned by Roman clean 1, 2, 3. Why even do the fucking match? That was so stupid. Bryan's role in this whole thing was completely random. Now, obviously, they have no idea what to do with Daniel Bryan right now. So he's in a bit of a holding pattern. They put him in this match. He had nothing to do with any of this. He's not feuding with the Miz and Morrison. He's not doing anything with Roman. He was just here for the sake of Roman having to have a partner. I kind of predicted it would be Daniel Bryan just because there's really no one else that would make any sense. But I thought this whole thing was stupid. I can't believe they did that. I thought that was so dumb. And then they were saying all night long, oh, King Corbin's banned after what he did last week. He showed up anyway, obviously, in the crowd of the fucking ticket. And then as soon as the match is over, he jumps in the ring to attack Roman Reigns. And I think Roman got the better of him. I don't remember, honestly. I honestly don't remember who stood tall. It might have been Corbin. Yeah, it was Corbin, actually, because he was on his fucking platform, which looked dumb as hell on the stage. But why could you have not interfered 2 seconds earlier? I hate DQs as much as the next person. I hate non-finishes. Don't get me wrong, in the main event, it's a waste. But in this case, at least it would have protected Miz and Morrison. Why the Miz and Morrison? Why not the fucking Revival or something? I thought that was so stupid. Why not have Corbin interfere 10 seconds earlier? I could not believe that they did that. So the Corbin-Reigns feud is still going on. They have a steel cage match in Saudi Arabia. Who the fuck could possibly care? The whole thing sucks. I did not like this episode. I liked how they built up the Mandy and Otis thing. They got you going there for a second, then they, again, just swept that rug from right underneath you. I thought that was great. I thought that was masterfully done. That was about it, though. I enjoyed Cesaro's involvement in that dumb segment with Elias and Strowman and Sami Zayn. And then the women's championship match was good. Other than that, though, this was a completely forgettable show. The Hulk and Wyatt stuff I didn't mind either, but all in all, this was a very uneventful episode. Nothing really worth watching here at all. No, above-average matches. Definitely some questionable booking decisions. I mean, the crowd was great. Props to Vancouver for a great atmosphere that night, for Friday night. But overall, this episode sucked. This show was poopy. So do not bother to make time to watch it if you missed it. There really is nothing to see from this show. SmackDown is just in a fucking... it's in doldrums right now. It's in this, this pit of, of eternal danger. I'm not even sure if that would be the right word, but, it's in a rut. It's in a serious rut right now with SmackDown, and they need to get out of it. They need to figure out how they can fix this show and make it better. Because every single week, it feels like it's a chore to get through. It's literally become the new Raw. They got to figure that shit out. They've reversed the roles in the last 6 months. Raw's been great. SmackDown, far from it. They got to figure this shit out. I'm sure the rating won't be great because it was Valentine's Day. Most normal people would be out anyway for the most part. If you have a couple, if you have a significant other, of course. Alexis and I, we came back in time, not to watch the show live, but to watch it after the fact, and I'm glad we did not come back at 8 p.m. to watch the show live. I would have been more pissed. I'm glad we got to skip through all the bullshit because this was a complete waste of a show. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out my audio review for SmackDown for February 14th, 2020. I appreciate it. We should be back next week with another audio review of the show, unless I can think of some reason to not, that I won't be around or whatever. As of right now, I can't think of anything. Pretty sure I will be around. The week after that, though, I'm not positive. The 29th, the Leap Day, I'm going to try to do a video that day. I should be able to, but I'm going to Evolve that day, actually, with Alexis. We're meeting a slew of NXT superstars. Evolve superstars will be there as well. It's in New York City, so we're not leaving relatively early. We're not leaving till the afternoon. I don't think, now that I think about it, so I probably will be able to put up a video, but I'm not 100% sure yet. That being said, thank you guys, as always, for checking out this video. Be sure to stay tuned for more SmackDown audio reviews, more stuff here on the channel with the original content and whatnot. I know there was a new Day Of that went up yesterday on the WWE Network, focusing on the Royal Rumble. Looking forward to checking that out. Those are always great. My review of that should be up tomorrow here on the channel. Then I think after that is the Ruthless Aggression show. I think those new episodes air starting Sunday, which is very exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, that's about it, guys. So have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy the XFL games today. I'll be watching the Guardians and the DC Defenders. Alexis actually got me a DC Defenders hat for Valentine's Day, so I'll probably be sporting that while watching the game today. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. Enjoy the rest of your Valentine's Day weekend, and I'll catch your ass down the road.